Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's weekly energy boost. My name is Elisheva, and today Eitan and I are here to help you, to help all of us get to who we really are, because as the title says, who you are matters. And we have the beautiful influence of this week's portion together with the new moon of Gemini that we'll talk about that helps us to really gain clarity and focus in on the unique value that we came to this lifetime to provide, not only to the world around us, but also to ourselves, and connecting that sense of genuine fulfillment, revelation of our gifts, and contributing to the greater whole, how that can all factor into helping us get closer to understanding who we are and what we've come to do in this lifetime. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where we provide our listeners with the most practical and powerful tools to navigate the coming 7 days from the wisdom and tools of Kabbalah. So every episode ends up providing the pathway to take advantage of what's coming at us this week, but also ends up offering wisdom and tools that can be used anytime. And because of the unique combination of those two influences, the energy that we can take advantage of this week is to really get closer to the unique value that we are capable of expressing. And I think for a lot of us, Eitan and I were talking about this before we began, it's not always obvious, right, what we're here to do. Many of us look externally. We look at what is expected of us. We look at what makes sense for us to do. And that often translates to a profession. But that's not who we are. That's not our identity. That may be something that we do or that we're talented at, or maybe something that we don't like. But the truth is that the more in touch we are with who we really are and our unique value, everything in our life benefits. Everything in our life can grow and elevate when we operate from that place. So how do we get to better understand who we really are and what our unique value is?
I think the first step is to be clear who we are not. Because our five senses and our limited perception see such a fraction of who we truly are. So very often, after I've done something amazing that I'm proud of, I say, wow, I like myself. Or we have tendency to define who we are based on our profession, based on the last person that we help, based on the way that the world sees us, based on something that comparing to society supposed to be something positive and amazing and appreciated. That's not who we are. And it's interesting, Rav Ashlag in Introduction to the Zohar, actually in the book Thought of Creation, saying something amazing. How do you know what is your essence? Essence is eternal. What is the eternal part of you? Our unlimited soul. So that's first. The expression include, I'm now teaching Kabbalah. I'm sharing wisdom. I'm a father of 5. That's not who I am. That's some of the extension that comes from my essence and my true power. So first, the first step is who am I really are? What is the source, the essence, the eternal part of me? It's limitless soul that attached to the Creator, that expressing the Creator's energy and the light energy in a unique way. Our job in this world is to get closer to who we really are by expressing closer who we are. And what I would like soon to open the discussion, What is some of the tools we can do to feel more our source, our essence, our limitless soul?
I think it's difficult, especially when I think most of us aren't born onto a spiritual path, although maybe some of us are fortunate to have our parents guide us that way. But we are raised to believe that our value is tangible, whether it comes in the form of a paycheck or the level of education that we have, or when we do the right things, and the acknowledgement or approval tends to be confusing. And I often bring up the idea that people think that their purpose is outside of them. And so they think, well, if I'm unfulfilled in my career, it's simply because I haven't found my purpose. Our career, our job, our 9 to 5, or maybe we're more than passionate about what we do, so it ends up being beyond the 40-hour work week. What we do isn't who we are. And I think we all understand that intellectually, but we allow ourselves to believe in our skills, our ability, our education, the what we call the 1% part of us. And even though your skills and your profession may be beyond something that is learned, you may have a gift, right? A lot of people have gifts that they manage to find a way to make a living through them. And that still is not who we are. So I feel like when you said, we have to figure out, we have to know who we're not, right? That's a big part of the story. We've talked before on the podcast about imposter syndrome, that people are worried that someone's going to find out they're not all that great, or that they're flawed or imperfect and everything externally is an illusion. That's actually the truth. That's Kabbalistically speaking, we are not who we appear to be externally. We are not our awards or credentials. And the part of us that feels an imposter or is afraid to be discovered or found out or exposed, that's exactly who we're not. And I think that it's a beautiful way to begin to drop the disguise, or the disguises, because if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of our life we spend in costume changes, right? We have a job we get dressed for, probably, or we move to the office in the house. We have a certain persona when we're working. We have a certain persona when we're with our family. We have a certain persona when maybe with different parts of our family. Maybe with our kids it's one way, and with our parents it's another way, and with our extended family it's something else. With our friends, there's so many different, it's like we have masks, or I don't know, to me it feels like costume changes, because sometimes it's even difficult to remember, or we're worried, what if this group meets with that group, and then how am I going to act? How am I going to behave? How am I going to manage my energy when I'm supposed to be wearing 2 different costumes right now? So that teaching from the Kabbalists about your essence is eternal. It's actually who you are when you're not doing anything. It's who you are regardless of who you're around, what location you're at, what time of your life you're in. It doesn't change based upon what's outside of you. And I feel
include even mistakes that you've just made. That doesn't make you not the great soul that you are. Mistakes don't define you. Mistake is maybe part of the process to learn how to get closer and to open yourself more, to be attached to your true essence, to who we are.
100%. And while you were talking, I was thinking, and you also asked the question, what are some tools that we can figure out, who we really are? We used to teach this concept in our classes. It's not an example that we use so much anymore, but we used to say that we're like a broadcasting station, and we receive like a radio receives the broadcast from, one broadcast is the broadcast of the soul, and the other is the broadcast of the ego, and they're playing simultaneously. But we get to choose which broadcast we tune into. We can lower the volume on the ego, we can pause the sound on the ego, sometimes temporarily, but the goal is to really tap into the voice of the soul, the broadcast of the light. Like you said, that deep connection to our source. So I feel like once we get clarity on how that broadcast of the ego sounds, which is comparison, doubts, jealousy, anxiety, worry, sadness, all of everything that's not light-like, then we can begin to, like you said, clear away the confusion and the illusion and the false attachments we have to who we are and what makes us so great, and really get closer to our genuine and authentic self.
Beautiful. You know, the Zohar that speaks about the idea of how can you get closer and feel the confidence, the strength, and the energy that eventually you would like to allow to channel through you. So he speaks about the idea of counting good eye and evil eye. Very interesting. He's saying counting can be used in a positive way or in a negative way. What is the positive way? When I'm asking the Creator, please, I want to attach myself to the source in spite of all what I feel here. Allow me to know that right now my upper light is shining, even though there's curtain, my ego, my body doesn't let me feel. Allow me to plug into it. To make me counting is also to make me count, to feel the important right in this very second. My soul is shining, the fact that I have a desire to connect with and not to anybody else, then I feel I'm counting. And then of course, okay, what positive action can I do right now? And to start to allow that connection. So counting means I want to feel counted, means because my essence is counted. The Creator counts on me. I have a job. The negative thing of counting, when you don't connect to your source and feel your source or try to channel your source, then you still to count. I have, I don't have. I made a lot of money, I didn't make a lot of money. They like what I did, they didn't like what I did. He has, she doesn't have. When you start to count things, even your own blessings in this physical world, the Zohar tells us you create evil eye. What does it mean? You separate yourself from your true source and you create a curtain. You're so attached to the physical world of lack. That's what evil eye. Attach to lack. See the lack. Comparison is igniting lack. Comparing between you and someone else. Starting to count, wow, it's a lot, it's a little bit. Comparing to my essence is nothing. By me giving a number, even to money, counting your own money, you create evil eye. Evil eye means you create energy of blockage, of end, of finite. So actually, are you counting what you just done? Or you try to count, plug yourself to your source?
It's a mind game, because on one hand, so many of us attach our value, not maybe some people to how much they make, but for most people, for a lot of people, it's how much they accomplish. I did a lot today, I was successful. I barely did anything, I feel worthless. And the challenge about that, at least for me, and I know that there's in a way a movement around this, is that the light of the Creator, that's our source. And by the way, I heard something beautiful, actually. I can't remember if I read it or I heard it, but I heard someone say last week, you are a masterpiece because you are a piece of the master. That your uniqueness, your beauty, your value comes from the fact that you are, at least according to the teachings of Kabbalah, literally a piece of the Creator, a spark, a shard, call it what you want. And that, just because that's your source and that's your essence, you are necessary, valuable, and the Creator doesn't make too much of anything. Doesn't create. There's no. I don't know what the word is. No sloppy seconds. The Creator is very precise. The universe is very specific. So when you were born, it was decided that the world couldn't exist without you on it for right now at this point. And so getting in touch with that essence, with who you are and what you've come to contribute to the bigger picture is not a nice project or a good idea or something I'd like to think about in my spare time. When you realize it, if I was brought to this world for a certain reason, and I'm busy with my family and a job, and I'm thinking that that reason is outside of my to-do list, it's the opposite is true. Somewhere within my day, there are unique, we call them sparks, but it's like moments that I am meant to shine my light, and no one else can do that work. So part of it is, I think, bringing, or maybe again, removing the dividers in our mind and our perception of this is my spiritual life, this is my work life, this is my family life. It's not only not being busy changing who you are for each of those compartments, it's recognizing that the idea of compartmentalizing the aspects of our life, it's also fake. It's also an illusion. Your family life is your spiritual life. Your work life is your spiritual life. Your physical health is also part of your spiritual life, because what brought you here is your spirit, not your body. And reconnecting to that idea, I think, helps to infuse purpose and meaning, even to going to the grocery store, right? Why am I going to the grocery store now versus tomorrow versus 5 hours ago? Why that grocery store versus the one a mile away? There is precision in everything, because every part of the universe is an extension of the light of the Creator. So that precision exists in everything. There's no mistakes, there's no glitches, there's no oversight. It is perfect. So realizing that everywhere that you are, you're meant to be there. And the way you know that you're meant to be there is you're there already, right? So if you're already there, you know you're there for a reason. And the work is, what am I supposed to be? What can I do now to reveal the light, to express my unique value, to add value, to elevate whatever's going on around me? And I think if we can this week tune ourselves into that mindset, it'll be easier for us to do it year round, but also this week, I think, will give us even more valuable insights into how we can contribute, where are the opportunities we haven't been seeing, and maybe what's the, a lot of us kind of walk around thinking, well, something's missing. This is one of those weeks that we can tap into what's missing.
The last thing I would say, often we're saying, I would love to be able to feel the power of my soul. Then I can do, then I can be clear. What's the right, then I can feel the confidence. The other way around. Step number one, know that you're much more powerful than what you feel and what you see. Just know. Knowing is a connection. Step number two, be like the light. Be like your soul. In this very moment, how can you be present and giving energy? Instead of figuring out where is my power, where is my strength, just try to be in this very moment a conduit of the light, giving energy, adding value, as you're saying. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. Then guess what? The flow will be felt by you, by us. Because then you open the gate to allow your true essence to shine. And suddenly you're surprised. Wow, I didn't know I have such a strength. And we forget. And we think, wow, yes, I am confident, I am powerful. No, you simply allow to act like your source. That's the reason you feel the source. So don't just search first to feel. No, your source is powerful, looking to shine through the limited self from the unlimited self. Just act like the light without trying to find what is my purpose, what is my strength, and then purpose will come, feelings will come, value will be you'll be amazed. Wow, I didn't know it's there even.
And I know for everyone who's listening that's saying, wow, that sounds a little bit out there, we do this all the time, right? If I would ask every single person who's listening right now, When do you most feel in the zone or in the flow? Whatever you would answer, when I'm singing, when I'm making art, when I'm in nature, when I'm with my family, everybody has their own unique zone, own unique way that they feel in the flow. You're never in your head. You're never worried. You're never overthinking. You're never afraid. You're never regretting anything. You're not in your head. You're in your heart. So what Eitan shared about knowing and then doing, that's a way to activate the flow, I think, in ways that you didn't know were possible. And it's not a coincidence, and we always talk about it, at least as much as we can remember to do it, that this week also contains within it the new moon of Gemini. Rosh Chodesh Sivan is this Wednesday, so sunset on Tuesday night till sunset Wednesday night, we have the opportunity to plant positive seeds for the entire month to come. And that applies to every month, but there are definitely unique opportunities that the month of Gemini has to offer us. We're obviously going to touch on it in every one of the episodes of the month, but the best practice for those 24 hours is to be the person, have the mindset, walk the walk in the way that you know your highest self can. With generosity, with kindness, with compassion. You know, our Gemini friends tend to be, they're some of the best communicators, networkers, people. They're fabulous to be around. They know how to connect with people that they just meet on the street. But the weakness or the opportunity to grow often comes in the form of commitment, consistency, perseverance, and we'll get into it in the coming weeks, but just to make sure that at least for these first few days of the month of Gemini, and specifically on Wednesday, if you're listening to it in advance, that you know that that's a very powerful day to be, I would say, on your best behavior, but it's not an external thing. It's much more important what's going on internally, that you maintain that proactive, light-minded space, because that will influence the entire month to come. Last words, Eitan, for our friends before we sign off?
Last word about Gemini and the energy of Gemini. Now it's connected to the aspect that we said before. One of the ways to wake up our own strength, that feeling our essence, is by wishing the best for others, searching for the light in others, elevating others without thinking what I'm gonna get from that. So that's the powerful practice that suddenly helps you to feel, which is counterintuitive to the ego that tells me, no, I will feel better when they're a little less.
I love that. What a powerful practice for the month for all of us. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also find us at weeklyenergyboost.com, where we post what we think is important for our listeners to know about, as well as our archives, and you can send us a message there. You can also click the donate button and help support Weekly Energy Boost. But as always, the best way to support us is to share, rate, and review this episode. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.